same. I'm looking for the characters and the emotions that are going to tell us the story of this journey of this person. You know, no matter what it is, if it's a superhero or if it's a rat cooking in a kitchen, it's always the same. It's like they want something that they don't have, and sometimes that's an emotional hole that they have to fill, and sometimes it's a physical thing they need to get. But always I'm looking for like, wow, I want to watch the movie and then feel something for that character. You know, with Remy in Ratatouille, it was like he just felt for this character because all he wanted to do was create, and everything was working against him, you know, to do that. And so it's about tapping into that. Or even with Peter Parker, I feel like is a very frustrated, sort of sad character. We all know what it's like to be a teenager, right? And I love the fact that these take place in those years for him, because that is one of the hardest times in life, is to navigate the life of a teenager. So that's what I really wanted to get at. The superhero stuff, you know, it's about just expanding whatever this melodic idea you did, because a lot of times it's very small on the piano or very simple, but when you bring it to the entire orchestra, you could then get big and huge for those moments when you need to be heroic, when you need to be, you know, outside of your own self, do things that you normally wouldn't do.
What is the main differences for you to work on a video game, a series, or movie?
I get that question a lot, and I always feel badly because I always say it's really the same. They're always the same. To me, they're all, because whether it's a video game or a movie or TV, you're dealing with characters again.
Yes, of course.
And storytelling. It's all storytelling. So you're there to help tell the story, whether it's Medal of Honor, the story of World War II, and or if it's again Ratatouille or Captain Kirk. It's all, you know. To me, I treat them all like real people in real situations, even if they're not.
So, talking about in games and versus movies, when you have certain action sequences, like there will be a fight or there will be a car chase, or how do you set the toning between when it's just your mid-movie kind of thing versus like the final battle?
Well, I remember in Star Trek, if you remember the opening of Star Trek 09, you know, where Kirk is born, and George is stuck on the ship and he can't, you know, the family goes off, and that's in the middle of a massive action scene. The ship is getting pummeled and all this. I remember, you know, I think when they first had that, there was a lot of action music in the tent there. But I kept watching that scene and feeling so sad, and so I just went the opposite direction with it and wrote like the saddest music ever over this whole thing, because I felt it was so tragic, you know. So it's about, even in an action scene, you want to analyze what's behind the action. You know, what is triggering this action? Is it a tragic event that triggered this action, or is it just a, you know, adrenaline-filled thing? I mean, it's always got to be different. So I try to pay very close attention to that, because it's about mining every bit of emotion you can from a story, because you're basically the guide for the audience in a way, you know. And people say, yes, but that's manipulative, and I'm like, all art is manipulative. It doesn't matter, you know. No matter if it's a painting on the wall that somebody has in the Louvre, that's a manipulative thing. You know, they are trying to get a reaction out of you, and the artist has a particular thing they want to say. So there's no such thing as art that isn't manipulative. It's just so silly. But anyway.
Anyway, go ahead.
Have you a favorite place to record your music?
What's that?
Have you a favorite place to record your music?
Favorite place to work on my music?
Yeah.
In my studio. I have a studio out behind the house that I built, and it's very much like the Jungle Cruise building. If you've ever been to Disneyland and never been to Adventureland, it is basically that building, and it's like my favorite place to go and just be. And even inside, everything looks like it's out of the 1930s, and it's a whole, you know. So it's I sort of created this little wonderland for myself, because I'm there all the time. I'm writing. I mean, I'm spending my entire days and weeks there. So I want it to be someplace that I enjoy being.
So when it comes to writing the music for a superhero movie, how do you decide what kind of music you want to write for the villain or an antagonist, just a character who doesn't have the main character's best interests?
Right. Well, even with the villain, and in particular with Spider-Man, it was great because he is presented as a character who's there to help, and he wants to help, and he has that tragic background that he came from, and this is what you want to feel. And I love the idea, because even villains have things they want. Even villains, they make bad choices. They're not that different from us, aside from the fact that they make bad choices in how to get what they want. They sort of forget about how their actions affect everyone around them. And I think that's pretty sad, and I always love it when I can be emotional with a villain and then slowly twist it into the anger and the terrible sort of actions that they end up doing to people. But I never want to lose sight of the fact that that's a real person. I think one of the best villains ever created for film was Hans Gruber in Die Hard, because you really understood what he wanted, and everything he said made sense. And you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. We have all seen villains where you're like, what are they doing? They just want to what? They just want to take over the world? What? Why? I can't relate to that. I like it when villains are very specific about what they want and how they want to get it. In a way in which we can relate and go, yeah, I guess I was going to rob a skyscraper. I could do it that way too. That makes sense.
What?
Good.
Thank you.
All right, great.
Thank you.
All right, great.
Thank you very much for your